Linux learners, how are you? This is George. In today's video, I wanted to talk about the root directory. If you're beginning your journey in Linux or learning how to use a Linux system, you want to know about the root directory and what's there, because you will be finding yourself in that directory and various subdirectories of that directory when you're doing work, especially if you're a systems administrator or an engineer or pretty much anything that involves a Linux machine. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. Log in, put your password in. Okay, we are now logged in. What is the Linux root directory? Well, the root directory is sort of like it's root, right? If you think of a tree, the root is the beginning, and everything branches, no pun intended, off of that root, right? Your tree grows from it. But everything begins somewhere. It's sort of the mother of all directories, right? And it's very powerful. A lot of your system information, your boot up files, applications, all those important things necessary for your operating system to work are located there. So you want to be really careful when you go in there, okay? But today's video, the focus is getting there, which is very easy, and then just taking a high level look at what's there. So let's do that. As you may know already, if you've watched any of my previous videos, we are currently logged into our home directory. You know that because of the tilde, and it's the /home/gsigalos directory because that's the user that I'm logged in as. And if you need confirmation, remember pwd will tell you that. So we are not in the root directory per se. So we want to cd change directory, and then you want to put a /. Okay? That's a / because if you picture yourself standing up and you were falling forward, it would look like that. A / is you're standing up, going backwards, right? So I wanted to clear that up because sometimes people don't understand that. Anyway, cd root is denoted with that symbol, whereas we know that this is the home symbol, this is the root symbol, right? Enter. We are now in the root directory, and long list to see what's in there. All right. Now, if you remember from a previous lesson, there are no files per se in here because there's no blank dash there. All right. So these are going to be all either aliases or directories. But for now, let's just think about directories. Okay. There's a lot in here. We're not going to cover all of them. We're only going to cover a couple. All right. So the first one I want us to take a look at, and if you have a virtual machine, I hope you're following along. And don't be afraid in a virtual machine to make mistakes and break the system. But if you're in a real Linux system, especially at work, you want to be really careful in here, right? So, but for now, we're exploring and we're learning. So let's just go ahead and cd into the bin directory. Bin is binaries. Now, if we take a look inside, we see all of these different executable files in here. One thing I want to call to mind to you on this is that whenever you use a command like pwd or whoami, right? If you don't know what that is, this command will tell you who you're logged in as. You'll also notice that whoami is right here. Okay? So this should tell you automatically, and if you look over to the far left in permissions, there's a dash there. Whoami is a file. So what does that mean? That means commands are executable files, right? That's all they are. So this is where they're housed and where they live. So you can understand that if you went in here and played around too much, that you could mess things up, right? But it's not just that in here, right? You have all kinds of different executable files. So that's the bin directory. Now, if we go ahead and go back, long list, let's take a look at the etc or etc directory. This one's super important, and I have a video in mind down the road. I'm going to show you where we explore this. But the etc file, or directory rather, houses configuration files, things that are important for your computer to run. So let's take a look inside. There is so much information in here that we could spend a year in here just looking at all this information, right? But essentially, what you want to take away from this is that you have multiple configuration files in here, like the SSH protocol files. You have your firewall configuration file in here. There's all kinds of stuff. Systemd. This will be stuff that we go over in future videos. But understand that this Etsy directory, you will be spending time in there. So what I'd recommend you do as a learner is CD into this directory and start opening all these files and just looking. You're not going to understand everything right away, but start to drip that information in your mind. Okay? Now if we CD back out of this long list, of course, there's the home directory, right? That's where all of your users are going to be, all your user home directories. So just to take a quick look, of course, I'm logged in as gsicklos. We saw before, and I did pwd, it said /home/gsicklos. Well, this is where all of my users that I've created live, right here. Their home directories. Let's cd back out of there, long list. All right, what else is important? Well, they're all important, but let's take a look at the var directory, variable directory. cd into var. Just like the name states, you're going to have variable files in here, files that change, ebb and flow, either get added to or get updated and changed through the system. What I'm thinking of is logs. Logs are super important. You will be looking at logs. We did that in the head tail video, right? So this is where they're found, in the variable directory. Let's take a look inside. Okay, you have all kinds of cool stuff in here. Again, these are all subdirectories of the main directory var. So you can start looking in here and see what's going on, right? We can just cd into long list that, and we can just dive deep, right? We can just keep going. You got different messaging. You have cron. These are all important files that we will look at some point, I imagine. But just to kind of take a look, let's teach you a new command really quick called more. Last video I taught you about head and tail, like usually the first 10 lines by default or the last 10 lines. More is a little different. I like this command personally. This is my favorite way to parse through a file. What more will do is this, watch. So let's just take a look at last log with more. Oops, I need to put a space. Alright, you can see the bottom. I have nothing in here, so that wasn't a very wise choice. Let me get out of there. Alright, I mean, this is a VM that I don't really do anything in, but let's take a look at messages, right? So let's use more. Well, first let me show you the output with cat, right? Ton of stuff. It's just going to keep going. Alright? Last video, we learned that head gives you first 10, tail gives you last 10. Look what more does. Go to sudo. More starts at the top, fills your page, right? You can start reading through it. At the bottom, you see where it says more 0%. Well, if you hit enter, it starts to bring you through the file. And you can just go and just hold down enter. I'm only at 1% of the file. Do you see how big that is? And you just keep reading and keep reading. You're looking for something in here. You're looking for an event. And you just keep going, and you're still at 1%. Let's hold it down. You're at 2%. I'll be holding down the enter button forever. But it's a pretty cool tool to use if you want to just kind of start at the top of a file and read through. Okay, hit Q to get out of it. And let's go back. A couple of levels. Look at our root directory. And you have different directories in here. And in order to keep this video under 10 minutes, just real quick, what I'd like you to do is just start exploring yourself. Okay, I showed you some of the main directories off of this root directory. Start taking a look at other things. Get curious. Look at that and say, I wonder what that TMP folder does. There's a lot of stuff in there. Just CD into it and do a long list and look, and you might not know what it is. So what? You will eventually go back. Long list again. cd into the proc's an important directory, process, okay, processes. Take a look, there's lots of information in here, and start playing around in there. Guys, if you have any questions, if you found this valuable, like and subscribe and tell people about it. I hope that you learned a little bit about the root directory and what it is and why it's important. And I hope you enjoyed that command more to help you go through a file. If you have any questions, put them in the comments. And as always, if you have something to add, I missed something, there's a cool little tip or trick that you have, throw it in the comments. Let's all help each other out. Until next video, have a great day, guys.